What's going on, everybody? Welcome into College Football Now. My name is Joey Peterson, and we have made it. We finally have college season back and in full swing. But on today's show, we're going to look at a report from CFB Insider, a guy with On3, Brett McMurphy, where he talks about the possibility of more conference expansion on the horizon. We're going to talk about what that might mean for the Big Ten, for the SEC, and a few schools that might be leaving their respective conferences for something bigger and something better in the future. Before that, though, I need you guys to get down to the comment section for me because there's 3 games that I'm really, really excited about this weekend. There's probably 8 games I'm really excited about, but I wanted to pick these 3 because I want your opinions, okay? Auburn versus Baylor, Texas versus Ohio State, LSU versus Clemson. I want you to pick each winner. Let me know in the comment section down below by saying their initials. So if you think it's Auburn, Ohio State, Clemson, give me an AOC. If you think it's Baylor, Ohio State, LSU, give me a BOL. Just make your calls down below right now. So Jim Smith, the athletic director for the University of Maryland, yes, Jim Smith sounds like a fake name. It is a real name. Can't get much more generic than that. Was asked recently how many teams does he think will be in the Big Ten in 2030. And automatically, we kind of think, okay, 2030, that's like, what, 10 years from now? No, it's 4 years and 4 months away, which is absolutely ludicrous regardless. He answered, and he answered it straight up. He didn't dance around the subject, right? He said 20, okay? So that means as the Big Ten currently sits right now, they have 18 teams. So somewhere along the next 4 seasons, an athletic director for that university believes that 20 will be there, meaning they will add 2 more along the way. So the question then turns from that answer, who will they add? Right now, there's a couple of teams from the Big 12, a couple of teams from the ACC that have their cases. But Brett McMurphy, he believes the Big Ten has no idea. He says, with all my experience and high-level sources, which he has a lot, I can say definitively, with 100% certainty, the Big Ten does not know who it will add. And I know a lot of you right now are automatically thinking, especially when you talk geographically, it makes sense to add Notre Dame, right? They're in the Midwest, where the majority of the schools in the Big Ten are. I know we've expanded out west and obviously in the east as well, but I can tell you right now, they will not be adding Notre Dame because it makes no sense for Notre Dame. It's not one of those deals where the Big Ten looks at Notre Dame and says, hey, you, come here now, you're in our conference. No. It has to be mutually beneficial, and most importantly, it has to be mutually agreed on by both parties. And Notre Dame's never going to agree on something like that. They will be independent, I can promise you, as long as they are a Catholic university, which will be forever. It makes no sense for multiple reasons. Number one, their path to the playoffs as an independent is so much easier rather than being in the Big Ten. Reason number one, if they win 10 games as an independent, they are in. If they win 10 games in the Big Ten, and so does Penn State, so does Ohio State, so does Michigan, then there's some toss-up there, right? Their TV deal, just sign a new one with NBC. They got their own TV deal. They don't need to share it with anybody else. Why would they want to share it with anybody else? All their revenue from that deal goes to their pockets. And also, like, their other sports are in a conference, so they're fine on that end. They just like being independent for their football program because it benefits them and them only. So where do you turn from here? Well, there's 5 teams in my mind that seem like they're the next up to expand to one of these bigger conferences in the Big Ten and in the SEC. Clemson, Florida State, those are in my mind probably the top 2, although Brett has some other feelings. I'll tell you about those in a second. Then Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and Virginia. And I know that those teams feel SEC, and the reason they feel that way is because if you take the name Southeastern Conference and you look at those schools geographically, they are in the Southeast. But like UCLA and USC, those teams don't seem too Big Ten either, and now they are in the Big Ten. So if you're looking at geography, right now with conferences, geography is kind of out the window. That just doesn't make sense anymore. It's all, what can you do for me? Can your football teams bring me money? That is it. Let me know in the comment section down below. Which schools does the Big Ten add? Reminder, they're looking at adding 2 over the next 4 years You let me know which schools those are. Coming up on today's show, don't go anywhere. We got more from Brett McMurphy. He actually talks a little bit about the SEC. But before that, I need to tell you guys about our awesome sponsor. That is our friends over at Prize Picks. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Preseason football is done. College football is underway, so don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds to turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. All eyes in the world will be on Texas, Ohio State in the shoe. So I thought it'd be fun to make that game a little bit more fun with Prize Picks. Give me the more on Arch Manning passing touchdowns, 1.5. Give me the more on Jeremiah Smith, 77.5 receiving yards. And for that night game, Clemson, LSU, I really love Clemson's defensive front. So give me the less on 278.5 passing yards from Garrett Nussmeier. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The link to this promo is in the comments and also in the description of today's video. Prize Picks, run your game. So Brett McMurphy, just about a day after he had that report about what Jim Smith had to say, he joined the On3 podcast of Andy and Ari. Talked a lot about this conference expansion deal and mentioned 2 teams specifically. He said, after I reported that this morning, I immediately got a text from someone within the SEC and basically said what I've been thinking. And that is UNC and Virginia will be highly contested between both conferences. I do really believe that they are the most attractive to both leagues. First off, this kind of surprised me. I wouldn't have picked those 2 teams as being the most attractive out of the 5 teams I just listed to you. But if I had to pick one out of those 2 that I feel like is more attractive, it's probably UNC. I just feel like there's a little bit more pros on UNC's side, or at least bigger pros on UNC's side than there is on Virginia's, okay? You got to look at UNC and just think about the spectacle that they're going to be in 2025 and the years to come as long as Bill Belichick is on that sideline. The Bill Belichick era has begun. And if you know anything about his coaching style, if you know anything about his success over the last 5 decades coaching in the sport, it's easy to think that UNC might be one of those contending teams for the next couple of years to come. They're also a blue blood basketball program. So if you add them into the SEC, you add another really good basketball team. And the funny thing about SEC basketball is they are on the rise as of recent. And speaking of recently, UNC's been pretty decently competitive in football. Obviously, they had Drake May, who was a top 5 pick just a year and a half ago. They've had some pretty good seasons with Sam Howell as well. And now, if you think that was good, I feel like they're going to be even better under Bill Belichick. Now, the pros for Virginia, they're different. They might have more of them, but I don't think they are as impactful as UNC's are. They're a very competitive basketball program. They've won a national championship in the last, 5 years, AOC, I think. They've got some big money alumni as well. A lot of money coming out of Virginia. They have the academic prestige, and believe me, I would know. My sister is an engineer at the University of Virginia currently. She's about 7 times smarter than I am. And also, with Virginia, you get a pretty huge market in the DMV, okay? I know that Charlottesville is not super close to Washington, D.C., but it's like, 2 hours away? It's close enough. And again, all of their alumni, majority of their alumni, end up in the DMV. So you get that pretty big market, which UNC doesn't necessarily offer you. Which of those 2 would you add? Okay? North Carolina or Virginia? If it's North Carolina, give me a UNC. And if it's Virginia, get down in the comment section and give me a UVA. Which of those 2 are you taking? You let me know. My take, personally, it feels like 5 years from now, the Big Ten and the SEC will both be at 20 teams. Because if you think about it, if the Big Ten's going to go to 20, I don't think the SEC is just going to sit on their hands, let them go to 20 and add more competitive programs without at least trying to catch up. As they currently sit, the SEC has less teams. They're sitting at 16. And as we talked about already, the Big Ten is sitting at 8 teams. So that means now till 2030, so 4 years, 3 months, I think 6 teams will be moving out of the ACC and out of the Big 12. Because we all know where this is headed. The end product, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, will be a playoff that's basically Big Ten versus SEC. Think of it as AFC versus NFC. They just take the most likely 6, 8 best teams in each of those divisions, which might turn into conferences, and they go at it. That's probably a 16-team playoff. Now, is this the best solution? I don't think so. I like having multiple different divisions, but if you're going to have divisions like the ACC that aren't super competitive, then I guess it makes sense a little bit. So you might not like the solution, but is this where we're headed? Yeah, I think it is. I think the writing's on the wall. So what happens to the ACC and the Big 12? I don't know. Like, I think a couple of years ago, if you would have told us in 2015, hey, Joey, the Pac-12 by the year of 2025 will not really exist anymore, I would have called you crazy, right? That's like why people who might be watching this video are calling me crazy for thinking the ACC and the Big 12 might not exist independently. They might have to come together and join their own super conference, and we'll see if that happens. That's going to be it for today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, okay? College football coverage every single week right here on College Football Now. And if you haven't joined us already, make that change and join us today.